Having finished saliva and deglutition, as you all know, after chewing, you swallow. That process is called as deglutition, which has three phases: the oral or the buccal, the the pharyngeal, followed by the esophageal. So today's class is about after the food is swallowed by gravity, it comes down to the lower esophageal sphincter and it enters the stomach, which is collapsed when it is empty, and it is J-shaped hollow muscular organ. Average capacity is 1.2 to 1.7 liters. So the major components you are seeing, after the food enters the mouth, it comes to the stomach, which is made up of fundus, body, and pylori sphincter, and continues as duodenum. We will be learning about what is gastric secretion. Unlike other parts of the structure, functional anatomy, what are the glands, then what happens, the motility in the stomach, where protein digestion is initiated or it is started in stomach, unlike the carbohydrate digestion starts in mouth, and you will know the important secretion along with gastric motility, an idea about gastric ulcer and peptic ulcer. So if you go to the functional anatomy, unlike other parts of the GI tract, the muscular layer of the stomach contains outer longitudinal, middle circular, and inner oblique. The inlet of the stomach is guarded by esophageal sphincter and the outlet by pyloric sphincter. So you can see here the three layers and the glands with the mucosa, submucosa, with the mesenteric and Meesner's plexus. So as you consume food, assimilation of food requires digestion and absorption. So the mechanical processes are chewing, and stomach has some contractions like propulsion and retropropulsion, and the chemicals which are released or the enzymes are the salivary enzymes in the mouth, the lingual lipase, or the pepsin, which is very specific to stomach, is converted to pepsinogen to pepsin in the presence of HCl, and the zymogenic granules from pancreas with proteases from small intestine. So the carbohydrates, lipids are all finally metabolized to the glucose, the fatty acids, and amino acids. So ingestion of food initiates many endocrine, neural, and paracrine responses. The endocrine is release of transmitter into the blood. For example, once you consume protein, the antral part of the stomach stimulates the G cells, releases a gastrointestinal hormone called as gastrin, which enters the blood and stimulates the stomach, that is the parietal cell, and causes the secretion of hydrogen ion or HCl is formed. The second is the neural mechanism. Whenever the nerves are activated or stimulated, the neurotransmitter that influence either the secretory or motor activity. So the sight and smell of the food stimulates the vagus nerve, causes the release of acetylcholine, which in turn stimulates the parietal cells to release hydrogen ion. This paracrine action is within the stomach. Transmitter is released from the sensor cell and it affects the adjacent cells without either entering the blood or activating the neurons. Enterochromaffin cells, which are stimulated during stress, causes the release of histamine, which in turn causes the parietal cells to release HCl. So acid production is more released due to this mechanism due to stress. So these responses never occur as isolated, they rather are part of integrated, that is the neural or the chemical and the paracrine. So anatomy of stomach, it is made up of fundus, cardia, the oxyntic glands, which is present in the corpus or body, the antrum and pylorus, which is a functional unit. So they act as a functional syncytium which initiates the contraction. So you can come across the histology or microscopy of the submucosa, wherein you have the mucosa thrown into folds, the gastric rugae, we have the submucosa and the glands which are present. So you will come across in the body of the stomach different cells, surface epithelial cells, the mucous neck cells, the regenerative cells, the parietal cells which secretes HCl, and the chief cells secrete pepsin. Okay, and the endocrine, the enterochromal. So we will come across the mucin is secreted by superficial epithelial cell, mucin and pepsinogen by the mucous neck cell, acid, that is HCl and intrinsic factor by the parietal cell, and pepsinogen by chief cells which is connected under a low pH. So finally the enterochromaffin cells, due to stress, the stimulated releases histamine. And this is the parietal cell which has, at rest, the tubular vesicles are not very prominently formed, but the canalicula is formed once the cell becomes active. That means the proximal portion of the stomach secretes acid, pepsinogen, intrinsic factor, bicarbonate, whereas the distal part of the stomach releases gastrin and somatostatin. That is, initially the enzymes are released, but the later part, the gastrointestinal hormones are released. So you can see how the parietal cell helps in formation of HCl. So the HCl is parietal cell contain many large branching intracellular canaliculi. HCl is formed in this canaliculi and secreted when these cells are stimulated. Water which is present inside the parietal cell is ionized into hydrogen and hydroxyl, that is H2O plus. So you can see H and hydrolyzed. Carbon dioxide combines with H2O to form H2CO3 in the presence of carbonic anhydrase. The carbonic acid dissociates to hydrogen and bicarbonate. And you can see hydrogen is exchanged for sodium, and to maintain the electrical neutrality, the chloride is passed for exchange of the hydrogen ion, potassium. Okay. So gastrin stimulates acid secretion, releases histamine and regulates mucosal growth. It is a tropic action. So the three functions of gastrin, which is a gastrointestinal, it is formed with 101 amino acids as pre-progastrin. There are two types of gastrin, which is G17 and G34. So the more active is the G17. The rate of degradation is different. So there is another hormone called as CCK, which has same sequence with gastrin. Both are similar, but from a different gene and has opposite effects in regulation of gastric secretion. Acetylcholine, gastrin and histamine directly causes acid secretion by the parietal cells and indirectly induce this. The direct stimulation of parietal cells, you can see, and indirect stimulation of parietal cell through histamine, through the muscarinic receptors. And there are hormones which have been controlling this. So now that you have seen, the parietal cell causes the release of HCl under the influence of histamine, and the antrum also causes the digestion of proteins and amino acids. So whenever the food is consumed and the stomach is distended, the vagus nerve causes the release of acetylcholine, which binds to M3 receptor, and eventually all this causes action in the form of endocrine and paracrine. So inhibitory pathways are through enteric nervous system, which inhibits acetylcholine by producing vasoactive intestinal peptide, and histamine and secretin, which causes inhibition of hydrogen ion and also inhibits gastrin, which in turn stimulates somatostatin, which has an indirect action on gastrin and inhibits. So GIP is the gastric inhibitory peptide, also inhibits the hydrogen secretion. The PGE2, when you take anti-inflammatory painkillers, this is the drug which is inhibited. So what happens in signal? So here the main important thing, as all faculties of a medical is, you can see there is a pump called as hydrogen potassium pump, which helps in the formation of HCl. This is called as proton pump. This pump is inhibited when there is more acid release, like pantoprazole, esomeprazole, what you came across is Pantop. All these drugs inhibit the hydrogen potassium pump. There is also bicarbonate and mucosal protection. As you all know, the stomach, there is HCl secreted. So if HCl is secreted in the stomach, which will cause destruction of the mucosa, or the denudation of mucosa happens, and there is chances for ulcer. So we have two types of mucus, visible mucus and soluble mucus, that is viscid mucus. And also the third thing is the mucosal bicarbonate barrier. You can see the mucus gel and which has neutralized its zone, and you can see how hydrogen enters and bicarbonate also exits. So this is a very important thing for preventing the damage. As you all know, HCl is very much important for what? Conversion of pepsinogen to pepsin, which is a proteolytic enzyme wherein protein digestion starts in the stomach. If the mucosa is damaged, what happens is you can have different types of gastritis or peptic ulcer. Okay. So what are the different phases of gastric secretion? So when you come across phases of gastric secretion, we have the secretion of gastric juice occurs continuously. Over the volume of secretion is variable. It can be either cephalic phase, gastric phase, intestinal phase, and interdigestive phase. The cephalic phase is by the sight, smell, and thought of the food, whereas the gastric phase is once the food enters the stomach, it excites the long vagovagal reflex and local myenteric reflex, causing secretion of gastric juice. The secretion continues as long as the food remains in the stomach. This phase accounts for 70% of total, whereas the cephalic phase accounts for 20%. The main hormone which is in the gastric phase is gastrin and bombesin and histamine. All these are very essential to stimulate the parietal cell to release hydrogen ion. The intestinal phase is the presence of food in the upper portion of the stomach. Small intestine causes the stomach to produce small amounts of gastric juice. The hormone responsible are gastrin and bombesin. So whenever the protein enters, it stimulates the endocrine cell. Absorbed amino acid also stimulates the parietal cell, which in turn causes the gastrin release thereby. So there are three phases of gastric secretion. What are the phases? Cephalic phase. In cephalic only 20% is released, and this is mainly because of conditioned and unconditioned reflex. So the secretion of gastric juice starts in 5 minutes in cephalic phase once the food, and gastric phase accounts for 70%. This is mainly controlled by the hormone gastrin, whereas the intestinal phase is by gastrin and bombesin. So once you start consuming food, the acid secretion is in this form. Food remaining in the stomach and the rate of H secretion. So what is gastric motility? You all must be knowing what is gastric motility, which is very, very important to understand the concept of gastric emptying time, or the movements of the stomach are propulsion and retropropulsion. That means the food enters the lower esophageal sphincter, and if you have come across the granny's way in which they mix their contents before chewing, it is in the form of propulsion. Before the mixie came, they used to grind in the stomach, the same as stomach. Okay, so swallowing causes distension of stomach. There is a vagal reflex, which is neural mechanism, relaxation of fundus and corpus of the stomach. This process, when it receives the food into the stomach, is called as receptive relaxation. Then the lower esophageal sphincter is relaxed. Once the esophagus is distended, solid remains unmixed for 1 hour with weak contraction of the fundus or the smooth muscle. Liquids flow more rapidly into duodenum. Indigestible solid remains until contractile phase. Mixing waves occurs in antrum every 20 seconds, and a wave of contraction from the corpus. Finally, the snapshot of pylorus, which is the antral systole. So every time the food propels and retropropels, releasing 2 millimeter food particles into the duodenum by a contraction called as antral systole. This is propulsion followed by retropropulsion, and there is a rapid contraction of antrum which releases what is called as chyme or chyme into the duodenum, that is small intestine. So with glucose, the gastric motility attained. So these are the wave pattern in different parts of the stomach, and these are all slow waves, which are graded potential. The fundus has no waves, and you can see as the pylorus, the contraction is strong, and this contraction of pylorus and antrum is called as antral systole. After propulsion and retropropulsion, every time the food moves from the lower esophageal to the pylorus, and only when the size of the molecule is less than 2 mm, it is coming out of the stomach via forceful contraction of the pylorus and antrum called as antral systole, which releases the chyme, and that is called as squirting of chyme into the duodenum. So what are the factors which promote gastric emptying? Distension due to increased volume activates stretch receptors in intrinsic and extrinsic, causes reflex. So what is gastric emptying? Relaxation of pylorus and increase. This is a process by which stomach empties its contents into the duodenum. Normally the pylorus remains closed, partially allowing only fluids to pass through it. Whenever food is present in the stomach as chyme, the contractions become intense and causes gastric emptying. It occurs till the stomach is totally emptied, and thus pumping action is called as pyloric pump or antral systole. So gastrin from antrum increases emptying. So normally when you consume any food, it is around 3.5 hours it remains in the stomach, and this is the normal stomach emptying time. How much is it? 3.5 hours. For liquids it is less. For a fatty feed it is more. If what are the factors which inhibit? The factors which promote are distension and gastrin. The factors which inhibit emptying are: if duodenum receives too much volume, irritation and low pH, high osmolality protein breakdown products, it inhibits antral contraction of pyloric tone, causing enterogastric nervous reflex. Hormones released in duodenum and jejunum in response to fatty food, cholecystokinin, secretin, gastric inhibitory peptide, inhibit antral contraction and increase pyloric tone.